This computer. Never have I ever been so excited for a sales call because today we are going to go through Claude Co-Work, and Shania is going to help us understand how we can implement that into our practice. This is our second sales call of April, and I am so excited for you to take it away, Shania.
I am so excited as well. So, our last call, we really went over our brand voice and kind of what that looks like. Today, we're going to do a deep dive of kind of the difference between Claude and Claude Co-Work and how we can capitalize on using some of the features to compress time. And specifically, after this call, you're all going to have a resource that will allow you to give to your patients what a typical visit looks like in the cash pay space, which I think is often a question we get when we're on calls. And just in general, if you're someone who is seeking out physical therapy care and you're uncertain or unsure what a typical visit looks like with us here at Concierge Orthopedics, this will be a great handout for you to reference as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk you guys through how I would create what we call a lead magnet. Now, there's many ways that you can use Claude Co-Work, and I want to kind of differentiate. Kelly, do you know the difference between Claude versus Claude Co-Work?
I don't. No, I'm
Okay.
excited to learn.
Okay, so the easiest way that I can describe it is like Claude or chat. So Claude chat version, kind of like ChatGPT, is where you're just having a conversation back and forth, kind of how Kelly and I are now. And it's a lot of back and forth, back and forth. You give it a prompt, it brings it back. You kind of, upload something, it brings it back. And it's a lot of redundant kind of back and forth to get you to the end product. Think of it as like telling someone like, "Hey, help me with this," and then they help you and you have to keep asking them to help you and continue the process. Whereas Claude Co-Work, it's actually like a little helper that you say, "Hey, I want you to do this for me," and then you walk away. Literally. So today, if I were to go through the entirety of this lead magnet, we would not have enough time in this 30-minute call. So I'm going to show you kind of what I did and what that process looked like so that you can do this on your own. And there are some limitations with Claude Cowork. I will say certain tiers, obviously, like any entity where you're paying for a service, Claude Cowork is not free. It's $20 a month for kind of the lowest tier, and then it kind of builds. So once you get to a certain number of calls, they say, or prompts, it'll pause, and which I'll show you guys, and it'll say, wait until this time or pay more to get more
Yeah,
prompts, which I'm
I've
sure
already
you've run
run into
into.
that some with
Yes,
Claude.
yes. So, since Claude Cowork does a lot more calls, it's not just a one and back. It literally searches the internet to find all these things. It does use up quote unquote tokens, so to speak, a little bit quicker, and I'll show you guys what that kind of looks like. Does that make sense, Kelly?
Yes, and so
Cool.
what I've started doing is like even with Claude, I'll hop over on chat for my quick questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll like reserve Claude for like the bulk of it. Is that kind of how
I
you're
love that.
using it also?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Can you see my screen okay?
I can.
Perfect. Okay, so that's exactly right. So, also one thing to note, if you're using Cowork, it does default to the latest version. And what I've learned is this latest version is a little bit faster in terms of token use, but it does give you the best user experience. So if you're ever curious like what this
Oh.
Opus 4.7 is, I am not an expert in AI. However, I do know that that is like the latest version just based on what I've used and what I've researched through Claude Chat in terms of these versions. So, okay, so like I said, cycling back, what this is creating a lead magnet for patients. So, what I did is I prompted, well, first I created a little bit of a project here, and I have you guys in here just so we can work through it step by step. And what I did is I said, I want you to create me a lead magnet on what patients are going to expect during their first cash pay visit with Concierge Orthopedics Physical Therapy based on what you know about our company. And the beauty of Claude Cowork as well is it has a lot more memory than just chat. So Claude is phenomenal on getting to know you, but Cowork is like next level. So that's another thing that I've learned as well, and I like to use it for a lot of things, not just lead magnets. So once I prompted it, it'll ask questions similar to Claude. So if you tuned in for our last sales call, Kelly kind of went through this as well, where it asks you like these questions, like what do you want it? So I said yes, I do want the PDF. It was like eight. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question? I'm raising my hand.
Yeah,
Okay, so I
go
have a
ahead.
dumb
Raise your
question,
hand.
but like
Yeah.
I type in and I go to Claude, and I
hmm
like that's how I like on
So
Google Chrome.
that's a great question. So Claude, I'll show, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I want to
because
leave it, I want to keep it here, but I'll show you kind of an overview. So Claude is something that you would use in your web browser. Now,
yes.
Claude Cowork is a separate application that you do have to download on your desktop. So
Okay, so
I am
that's
in
how you
the,
access it.
yes. So I'm
Gotcha.
in the Claude app right now and I'm in the co-work setting. So you can see up here in the upper left, can you see this little co-work guy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have it already set to that just to streamline so you don't have to look at all my Claude chats and everything, but you can change it to Claude Code or Claude. But I recommend downloading that first because that's the first step to utilize Claude Cowork. That's a great question, Kelly.
Perfect.
So if you already have Cowork downloaded, cool. If you don't, you want to make sure you download the desktop version. And it doesn't take long, but it will ask you in terms of like what access you want to certain files. And that's what I'm going to kind of get into a little bit more too, because you can like upload like our brand voice template and things like that to allow it to access automatically, which is
Cool.
great. Okay, so back to kind of creating this little guy. So it did ask me questions. It said, how long do you want it to be? It was like 8 to 10 pages. I was like, absolutely not. No patient's going to read that, right? So we went with a 3 to 4. And then we wanted it to be warm and reassuring because these are sometimes new leads. Like if you or I didn't know what cash pay was, we want these people to understand why they would seek out cash pay physical therapy service through Concierge Orthopedics or any other first line practitioner who isn't in network, quote unquote. So it's really nice that it kept it that way. And then generic placeholders, I want this to be able to be utilized by several practices. So if I wanted to button it up even more, I could have said like for adolescent athletes for Kelly, or for me, general orthopedic population with a focus on, exercise rehab, things like that that are really going to get us to the right patient population and explain our niche. So you can tweak and tailor this as, buttoned up or as unbuttoned up as you want, but I left it general so that all providers can use it and all patients seeking general physical therapy care can understand it. So now it's going to create this little list of like where it's at in the process, which is quite cool. So when I did this, I then walked away. And then I was doing something else in the sidelines. I think honestly I was working on some things for patient prep and it was in here doing its thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's telling you what it's going to do. So it's going to, build this out, what have you. And then I prompted it again. And I said, I want you to pull from the latest literature and clinical practice guidelines. As you can see here, this is kind of a summary, using reputable sources like JOSPT, the APTA, and overall what the direct access model looks like throughout the entire US. And I want you to keep it real, relatable, and obviously pulling specific evidence because what patients want to see, what I want to see as a clinician is are we up to date on the most recent clinical practice guidelines and what are these numbers and what are these stats? You guys are going to be blown away once I show you the final product, but it literally, I'm watching it and then I walk away. It's really tempting. I don't know if you've ever seen it work, but like it's got so many files going that you're just like, I just want to sit there. But this probably took
Yeah.
like 10, 15 minutes for it to cycle through all these articles, and I'm walking away and doing something else. So talk about buy back your time, right? That's the goal of utilizing this is so we can go prep for our patients and do something and create a handout in the kind of the background. Okay. So then from there, it pulled all these articles. It found this strong evidence, which was great. And then I hit my limit. So then I had to wait. So then I went and did something else and I came back and I said, please get back to work. Well, then it was saying that it was going to generate something that was 7 pages long, which I was like, oh no. And then it was like, oh, I remembered that you wanted 4 to 5. So I tightened it up. I am not prompting it at all. All I said was get back to work and it's literally working in the back end. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, so essentially what it created initially, I'm just like leaving you guys hanging, which is so funny because you won't be able
I
to
know, I
see
can't wait.
until the end.
And now, do you ever because I do see where Opus, it says
Yeah.
Opus uses your limit. Do you, if you got to that, for
Mhm.
example, where it was like you've hit your limit, would you ever downgrade to an older model or do you just
So
wait it out? Is there a
I
recommended
waited out
practice?
only because okay, so you could downgrade to a lower model at 6 because I'm still throttled until 6 p.m. So I could downgrade to another model. That's a great question. That's not going to be like the latest and greatest, but it'll give me less calls per token. And honestly, like completely transparent. I was talking to Claude for a little bit before this too. So like it's it's interchangeable in terms of Claude and Claude Co-Work what's being used. But this specific
Okay,
model,
good.
yes. If we downgraded at 6 to a lower model, we would get more tokens per call, if you will, or more questions available until we got toggled the next time.
Gotcha. Okay,
But
great.
we'd still have to wait till 6, which
Yeah.
stinks. It's like the carrot, dangling the little carrot.
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially what it did, is it, created my 4 to 5 pages, which is awesome. It had a direct kind of call to action, what to expect, and then it was refining. So it's like telling me what it's doing, right? So then it created this thing, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted, right? So what I did is I ended up uploading our template from Canva of what we actually present to new hires. So it's literally a PowerPoint template, and I put it in here, and I had to analyze all the fonts, and I said we usually use Montserrat and Aton. I want you to look at this PowerPoint. I want you to pull the brand colors. I want you to pull the same theme and kind of how it's laid out because it looks really buttoned up, and I want you to utilize it and rework it. So what it did essentially is it kind of created this general overview of like what the handout had, which was cool. And then here, as we can see, and then it iterates. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm just excited to share. So it iterates. So it spit this out, and I was like, no, I want you to use our brand colors. I uploaded the brand color image, and then I uploaded the PowerPoint. And as you can see, let me look at your reference PDF to see how Anton and Montserrat look. So then it looked at all of that. And I walked away again. Okay. This is a lot, right? If we were doing this live, we'd be here for like over an hour, which you're like, oh, that takes forever. How is that buying back your time? But you're literally doing other things while this is
Yeah.
running in the background. Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, fonts are ready, looks good. I came back. So then I noticed that when it created the first rendition, some of the headers, so if you envision like there's different colors, and you guys will see this, I'm leaving this on purpose until the end, so you have to wait and see what the final product is. But what it did is it took those PowerPoints, and there was like words that were like maybe black, and then it was like black text. So it didn't look super lined up. And I was like, hey, this is a great first line template, but I'm seeing some overflow with the wording. I want you to change it to ensure that it's not overlapping. And then there was also a little yellow text box that was like shorter than the others. So there was three text boxes, which you'll see. So I was prompting it, like, I want you to make this even. I want this super buttoned up. And then there was some dots that were like overlapping with one of our call outs, our phone number and our website. So I was like, well, no one's going to be able to read the website if there's dots over it. And seems
Mm-hmm.
easy, right? But I didn't create it. So you got to prompt it and tell it what you want, and it'll do it. It'll do every single thing. And I used Whisper, which, Kelly, that has been a game changer for me as a whole. So I literally was just talking into my computer using the little whisper
Yeah.
and telling it this. So then it pulled out again, and then our concierge logo was just like an O. So I was like, hey, the concierge logo is just an O. It needs to be buttoned up. I want the real logo. I want you to use that PowerPoint as a reference, which it already had. So I didn't have to upload anything new. It just pulls from that old call. And then it updated and kept going. Are we following? Is this good? I know this is a lot, but I'm just kind
Yeah.
of walking you through like how to do it because everyone thinks like, oh, I just throw it in there and then it's done.
Right. It's like if you and I were working on it's what
Yeah.
makes me think of, and I'm like, hey, I think I would like this font bigger. Can you move this picture
Yes.
over? Which you and I have
Yes.
done that actually.
Yes. And it
So
takes
instead,
time.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
you're just kind of
So
coaching and you're kind of
You're
coaching it
coaching it.
along.
So then here is what I said. I want you to get rid of some unequal spacing in the overlap, and I prompted it so you can actually see what I said. And then I really wanted it to be visually pleasing. So just like making sure it understands like what you're looking for. Like talk to it like it's your little helper, right? You're going to give it a task, it's going to do it. If you give it the right amount of information, it's going to get it done. And then also I left this where they could put their email in, which I just for now, we have our corporate phone number, which you guys will be able to see so that people can contact Concierge Orthopedics and get in contact with a direct provider. But if a provider were to take this template, put it into Co-Work and revamp it, they could put their own email or anything to make it their own, if you will. Okay. All right. So then it fixed it. And then I got toggled again. And then obviously went to bed because it was 11 o'clock. So came back, told it to get back to work again because I had a few more things. And one thing I will say about co-work is when you do a project, you get to a point where it is very solid, but you should always leave it and come back the next day with a fresh set of eyes. So that's the biggest piece of advice I have because you can miss something.
Okay.
So what I did overall is, it's here updating, yada
And
yada.
it
And then
saves
I was,
it. Like you can pull back up having to
yeah,
start over.
nope, not starting over. So I said in the morning, I was like, get back to work. Thank you. Okay, finished working on this. Thank you. Then it told me like everything had updated, which was good. And then it left this phone and email as is and updated all the things. And I said, it's good. But now I want you to update our corporate phone number to this. so that there's no blank spots. Because what it did is it just left like a little box, which is cool. But for the use case of this, I want everyone to know like who to call, and obviously Evie, our sales intake specialist, will be our patient intake specialist, will essentially be taking over. And then at the end, there wasn't a copyright of 2026 when this was created, so I had to do that. Now, I wasn't necessarily looking at that level of detail when I was first doing it, but
Yeah.
when you come with a fresh set of eyes, it gives you new ideas, okay? So, are
Dun,
we
dun,
ready?
drum roll, please.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop my share for 1 second, okay? And I'm gonna pull this up, and you guys are gonna be blown away, I feel like.
I'm so excited.
So I gave it access to my Adobe. So you have to give Co-Work access to everything, which is pretty cool. But I don't give it access to everything, but I do give it access to my little Adobe here. So can you see this okay?
I can.
Okay, so this is our lead magnet that I created. And no, I did not go and edit a single thing on here beyond what Co-Work did. So what you're seeing is Co-Work doing its thing. So obviously what we wanted to showcase that this is premium PT built around you. Why would you want to come? And then what is this lead magnet all about? Why would I even want to read it? What to expect on your first visit and why cash pay is premium. So I'm not going to have you read through every single thing. This will be available as a resource for anyone who's watching this video. We will send it to you, as will we send it to anyone who's on the team. Obviously, if you're part of the team, you get access to this as well. But what I want you to look at is just how buttoned up it looks. So
Yes.
this stat right here, if I was a new patient, sold me. 89% lower odds of opioid prescription when
Wow.
PTs are the first point of care. And here, two, that tells you it's researched.
I was
So,
about to say it pulled
mhm.
that reference from somewhere.
Yes, yes, it pulled from the articles that I wanted. Remember, I referenced JOSPT, APTA, and anything that's super up and coming in terms of clinical practice guidelines within the physical therapy
Golly.
practice, which is cool. And then it shows you, like side by side, why you would choose cash pay over insurance led. And this obviously, like we all know who are in cash pay, but someone who is coming into the space might not understand, right? And then I think also this number, when you look at everyone thinks like cash pay, right? Sometimes more expensive, but really it lowers the cost because it compresses the time. So it's kind of like what talked about earlier. It really falls hand in hand about paying for co-work. When you pay for physical therapy care, it compresses your time in terms of the visits and the amount of time wasted waiting. And one thing that I was really excited about, which is so cool, is okay, so it tells you a little bit more about the premium results, which we know you guys can read through this. But the cool thing is it always puts the reference of the article there too. So it's not just like we're just saying this as a company. This is literally what's found in the literature. So this is gold. Before you arrive, your intake can be done from your couch. That compresses time. You don't have to get there early and fill out all these old forms and things you filled out a million times. You can fill out through us, our EMR, via email. So you can access it from anywhere, whether it's the ball field with your kids, your couch. And that really is cool because that's non-traditional, right? And that's where, cash pay as a whole is separate. And then it really tells you what to expect, which is cool too. And then at the end, it cites all the articles. So it really took this, small idea that I had and researched the internet and just dove deep into what I wanted to be a simple little handout. And it is still simple, but it really packs a punch in terms of the reputability and the research. If I were to go and search via chat every single article like this, it would have taken me hours.
It took
You look,
hours if you scroll up to your
mm-hmm,
page two, just
yep,
that chart on page two, not
mm-hmm,
even the numbers, because we've never had those numbers. We
yeah,
we knew as clinicians that
mm-hmm,
this was the trend, but just the
yes,
chart of like how the models compare, we've been, I've for the last 10.5 years been making different different graphics to share.
mm-hmm,
But I've never have I ever said, and this is why, like this published
mm-hmm,
article.
mm-hmm.
So this is just, I mean, yeah, incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think so too. Like we've reiterated like the importance of like, updating our PowerPoints, and we've spent hours manually working on like workbooks and content, and like if we were to do something like this and research all these articles, it would have been hours of time for one little handout. So just want to really showcase what Cowork can do. And I know this is just a general overview of how it's helped kind of explain the cash pay difference in terms of insurance-based physical therapy care versus cash pay. But you can have it go through your emails and organize your emails and construct an email, send an email. It can literally go into any application and do a task. Like I said, Chat, you're having a little conversation, telling it to do some stuff, and it's a lot of back and forth. Co-work's like, hey, I want you to go do this task, get it done, and it'll get it done. So there's so many use cases, and by no means am I, here to present because I'm an AI expert, but I just want to show that in any field, no matter if you're in the tech industry or not, if you're not utilizing AI, like you are missing out because you can learn so much information, especially as providers, like in the clinic. Kelly and I can attest to this. Like you don't have the time necessarily to always look up the best, clinical practice guideline or the latest research. So like the fact that we have the time in cash pay, and this literally says in here that we have the time to prepare for our sessions, which we already know, but it's really cool that it came up with that because that is the difference. We look up the research, we make sure that our program is the best, and it's not just some cookie cutter handout from a drawer. So if you're in physical therapy currently and you're, spinning your wheels in a normal clinic and you're looking for something that's a little bit different in terms of the cash pay space, read through this, see if it aligns with your values. And if you're a patient who's been to PT and you haven't had success, read through this and we would love to help you and get your first visit booked because totally a game changer in terms of compressing time and getting you better and getting you out of pain. And obviously, no opioids. We're looking to lower that as well. So
I mean, I look at the like, good job. Good job.
thank you.
But I look at
Thank
this
you.
and I mean, I almost see it used as a lead magnet for clinicians because it's like, hey, if you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it, here's why this is better. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just a small iteration. That's another thing we can offer the clinicians, which you can probably get in there and tell it, hey, your tone of voice, use
Mm-hmm.
this same information, same format, and just make it provider facing versus patient
Yes.
facing. And then you have like
Mm-hmm.
a perfect lead magnet we can throw into our workflows and all of those automations that we're working on building
Yes.
out. This is really exciting. So
Thanks.
basically, we all need to go get that app and
Mm-hmm.
put it on our desktop and
Yes.
then get Claude Co-Work as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I guess when you get the app and open it up, it'll be pretty
Yeah.
like seamless. You can probably type in like, I also want to use Co-Work and then start from there,
Yeah.
right?
And I would say too, like if you're new, like ask Claude about it a little bit. If you want to
Yeah.
learn a little bit more information, like it's okay to ask the chat portion of Claude how to help you with cowork because it's a little bit different and it's a little more in depth. But once you download it, it will just ask you about accessibility. So what do you want it to access? And just beware. One thing that I dealt with when I downloaded it was it'll sometimes log you out of accounts. So if you're someone who doesn't save your passwords or know them, make sure you have your Google ready and anything that you're giving it access to because it'll kind of shut down your like Google interface, if you will, and reopen everything so that Claude can go in there and sift through things. It can organize your emails, it can organize your photos, it can do pretty much anything that you want it to do in terms of, hey, do this task, and I walk away. So if you're someone who's been struggling with organization or just creating things, this is a great resource beyond what we presented on today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this information. This is
Thank you.
like, I can't wait to get off this call so I can do it.
It's
Cannot
so
wait.
fun. And
Yeah.
it's not hard. And that's why, like, too, like, I know I really said, like, it took a while, but that's only because, like, it's doing all these things that would take us hours. Well, we're doing something else in the background. So I want
Right.
to make sure that everyone understands that because, yes, it takes time, but I mean, look at this. This is like buttoned up. It's not just something that was slapped together. So it's going to take a few iterations for it to come to life. But if you were to do this on your own, it would be hours and hours of time.
So cool. Thank you so much, Shania. So
Thank
we'll
you,
be
Kelly.
back in a couple of weeks in the 1st of May with another coaching and sales call. And I cannot wait to see because we just keep building upon these new skills we're learning. So I can't wait to see what we'll be talking about. I'm certain it will be in the AI or EMR or some kind of automation sector. And so we will keep you posted for that. So we'll put this resource for this handout below the YouTube video. If you have questions, you want to be part of this team as a patient or a provider, we encourage you to use the number on the lead magnet we created and give us a call.
Yes.
Thanks, Shania.
Thank you.